All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am being joined today, and I'm very excited about this because I think this is a skill set that everybody really needs to either develop or certainly needs to pay attention to because it's so important. Words are so important no matter what business that you're in. I'm being joined today by Marisa Corcoran.
Yep.
Marisa, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad that how you said my name, it adds some flair. So I love it.
All right. So let me tell people about you real quick. So you are a copywriter and messaging strategist, which I love that. Not just a copywriter, but a messaging strategist, because I think there's a nuance that people sometimes forget. And you specifically help coaches and creatives craft compelling copy that attracts clients and makes money and creates massive movement online. I think that's some nice copywriting right there. So I'm excited to have you here and see who, and let us help some people, what do you call it, have a movement online. Because
yeah, that's the goal. That is totally the goal for sure.
I mean, a bowel movement is good, but a movement online is even better.
Yeah, that's where people get stuck. They want to create that movement. And they're not feeling the movement. They're not getting the engagement and the things that they want to create that movement. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So talk about this. You started a thing called Copy Chat.
Yeah.
What was Copy Chat all about?
So the Copy Chat was a series with about 21 of my favorite other copywriters, business coaches, and online strategists. And I brought them together. And instead of each interview kind of being like, oh, let's talk about our background or how we became successful, I wanted to make it about the listener and how they could walk away from each interview with one doable tip they could implement into their copy. So whether it was blogs, it was, for Facebook Lives, it was for email writing, it was for a webinar, they could walk away and they could take a stab at that copy for themselves. And it was a series I did for 2 weeks. That they could listen into. And it was incredible. People walked away implementing some of these tips. And a couple of our copy chatters, as I call them, came back and said, hey, I implemented these tips and I booked a private client. I sent the email templates that you guys told me and I booked a client. And what I loved about that was that it's not easy, but it is simple when you can get the strategy and the help and you start to kind of break down that barrier. So that's what I loved about doing the copy chat and giving people the tangible stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's great because the wonderful thing about copywriting is that it forces you to get inside of your client's mind, get inside that conversation they're already having. And I think most people fail miserably at that. You hit kind of the nail on the head when most people want to talk about, how awesome I am and look at all the great things I have. And I got 100,000 square feet and we've been doing this for 100 years. And that means nothing as opposed to I'm staying up late, or I'm having trouble sleeping because I'm worried about getting my kids through college, or, I don't know how to get, whatever, to the next level, or whatever is keeping up your clients up at night. And this is what copywriting is all about, is getting in that conversation and helping them make that decision or whatever, find that peace of mind they're looking for, right?
Yeah, and you nailed it, right, when you said, because we're kind of selfish creatures by nature. We want to know what's in it for us, Right. So when you said, I'm thinking, what's keeping me up at night? We use that a lot. We say, what's keeping the client up at night? And you saying, oh, I'm not able to sleep. Okay, but it's not just that. What's underneath? Why can't you sleep? So a lot of times people will come to me and say, well, I want to help people make more money, let's say. Okay, well, what's underneath the making more money? It's not just about that. There's other things. Like you said, where I want to put my kid through college. I want to feel, and we need to it's like layers of an onion. We got to get deep into the layers and get away from, like you said, it can't be about us because honestly, nobody cares. They want to know what's in it for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so give us a little bit of background about yourself. How, have you always been in copywriting? I mean, you mentioned before the show that you used to be a former actor. So
yeah.
Tell me about your background. How did you get from where you are today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I was an actor for a long time. I got my MFA in acting from Harvard, and I was an actor for a long time. And how that kind of relates back again to the audience that's listening. Okay, so that's great. You were an actor, but what does that mean for me? And I always say that being an actor, I didn't realize when I became a copywriter, I had a lot of great tools already, because the same tools to be a great actor can help you be a great copywriter and have a strong message. So for example, in acting, when I first went to acting school, it was like people would say, Marisa, it's not about you in the scene. It's about your scene partner. It's what do you want to get from your scene partner? What do you want them to do? Do you want to motivate them? Do you want to inspire them? My teachers had all sorts of, intentions for the scene. Get them to swallow a bitter pill. We had all sorts of things you could draw on. And then once you knew your intention, what were the tactics? How are you going to get them there? You're going to agitate them. What's your body language? What's it going to be? So in the same sense, that's what I brought with me to copywriting, was to go, okay, what do we want to get from the scene partner? What do you want to get from the person that's reading this, watching this? We call it in this world, like the call to action. What is it? But what's the reaction that you want to get out of them? And so the minute I kind of made that connection, I was like, oh, I'm really into this. And I started to be way more into copywriting than I was at being an actor. I felt like I loved when clients and people would come back and say, oh, this worked. And I booked the client, or people responded, or I had a higher open rate. That kind of like jazzed me way more than kind of being the struggling actor that I was. So for a while I was doing both. And then one day I said, after an audition for Winnie the Pooh, which I'll spare you the story behind this, but it's true. It was for an audition for Winnie the Pooh at a regional theater. I was like, I'm loving my clients so much, and what could I accomplish if I just put all that in, all the work into this instead?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? And I think that sooner or later, we all have to make that decision of putting all our eggs or all our energy into one basket or whatever. Right. I mean, the great thing about being an actor, a songwriter, an author, a speaker, the list goes on, all these creatives, it's great, but the ease of entry is like zero, right? I mean, it's very easy to get in there, or I should say the cost of entry is zero. And it makes it, it's such a competitive market. It's incredible. There's a lot of people who make their living as actors, but most people don't even know about it, right? They do dinner theater and they do this other stuff. And as a copywriter, it's what do they call it? Kind of the laptop lifestyle. You can travel and you can do all sorts of stuff, and you can help your clients from all over the world. So I think that's a good choice there. All right. So I want to talk about accountability.
Okay.
All right. One of the things that you talk about is that consumers are craving accountability and support rather than just a passive experience or passive course. Talk about this.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was finding this a lot with the copy chat, right? Because people were coming on board and being part of the series, and the biggest things they were saying was that I have so many strategies being thrown at me. I don't know which ones to implement and actually go with. And that's a big thing that I do with my clients, either when they work with me privately or they're in a group program with me, is I'm not actually concerned, like whatever the strategy is that you want to go with, let's go with it. Because I think that there's many ways there's not one diehard way to, gain, build your list or convert people. Like there's a variety of things, but I want you to decide what it is. And then what I think really makes the difference is having somebody that's holding you accountable. So like in my group programs, I'm making my the participants, like my clients, send me what they're writing. Like I want to look at it. There's an editing component. And I think when you have that and you have that accountability and that support, that's when we start to see we're not just staying in like the shiny object place, we're actually implementing. And that's what people really want. People are coming to me like constantly and saying, I don't know what the heck to say. And then when I do, I don't know what the next step is. And people are craving that kind of, we're seeing that, and I'm sure you're seeing that too. Like you're seeing this pendulum swing of people who are kind of like, they're over that kind of, okay, give me the course and I'll go on my way, which is fine. There's a lot of merit to that. And I'm somebody just naturally who I am. Like I'll take it and I'll run with it. It's the old Italian woman in me. Like if I paid for something, like I'm gonna know until the bitter end, But there's people that, think how many things have you signed up for that had that, the kind of passive component that promised you, you could do it yourself and get it done, that you it's probably sitting on your shelf and you haven't completed it, as opposed to having that support and that accountability of someone to check your stuff and make sure it gets done.
Yeah. I think that accountability and I'll even call it implementation is the thing that makes the difference, because I'm like so many people. I have bought a bunch of stuff, and you know what? It's great. The challenge though is the discipline required to go through a course when there's like, let's say, I don't know, 20 or 30 videos, even though the videos might be 15 minutes each or 10 minutes each. It's like, I'm good for 2 or 3 days, and all of a sudden, Bird, it's just like,
exactly.
I'm off and running, because I think people rather pay for the accountability and get your help implementing so they can get the results faster, because that's ultimately what we want. I mean, we want the result, whether it's through a course or I hire you or you help me or whatever it is. I don't care whether, how I get that result. I just want it quicker, better, faster. And I think that, if you have the discipline to, again, buy a course like Copy Chat and go through it yourself, hey, more power to you.
Yeah.
But if you're like me, I want it yesterday. I much rather pay the difference and get you to help me again, so I can get that faster result. And I see that even, what do you call it? The difference between, let's say, I don't know, a Walmart experience and a Nordstrom's experience, or other high-end retailer, right? You go there, Walmart is kind of do it yourself. There's very little people there to help you. Sometimes you got to roam around the store looking for what you need. You go to Nordstrom's and man, they're going to just, they will assign somebody to help you get what you need so you can get in and out faster. It's a completely different, experience for a completely different consumer.
Absolutely. I might have to steal that from you, that Walmart versus Nordstrom experience. I love it. You might see it pop up somewhere because I love it. But yes, I think that, and within the Copy Chat, that's what we were kind of guiding people towards, was to say, now that you have these tips, like, and in the Facebook group that I created, I'm telling people, like, post it, like, let's take a look and let's see when you have somebody telling you, change this, do this, and then saying, okay, go and send it out and let's see how it works, as opposed to people getting nervous. Oh, is it good enough? There's this big thing, is it good enough? I need it to be perfect. But when you have somebody to have their eyes and edits, I think it's beneficial, especially when it comes to copy, where I really think that, especially when you're starting out and for a very long time, you should still be doing it yourself, because you're always going to be writing for your business. Like, it's like water. You wake up, you have to write an email. You want to do a webinar? Well, there's a series of emails that go with that. It's like you're always writing. So for me, I think it's the best thing to learn your voice, kind of learn how to unleash your voice, your personality, learn the science behind it, and have somebody holding you accountable. Because, like writing, it's just not going out of style for your business. You're always going to be doing it.
Yeah. One of the things, and you brought that up, one of the things I love about your skill set is that I don't believe that AI or robots are going to be taking over that anytime soon, right? I mean, I think it's one of those evergreen skills that everybody needs. And I love what you said about you're always going to be writing about your business. You're always going to be writing. And the other thing that you said, that you need to understand your voice, you need to understand your clients, and you only get that from doing the copy, and maybe you just I don't know, do it for a short while, but whatever. But being immersed in that helps you, as we've mentioned before, understand your client, which now helps you with all your marketing. It also helps you when you train your customer support people, whoever it is. It just permeates the entire company.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole system, from, even how you send your invoices, everything that you do, there's an opportunity to connect the person on the other side. So as long as you are so clear on that voice, I worked for a long time on one of my mentors. Her name is Mara Glazer, a copywriter who's incredible. And she always says that with your copy, if your copy and content aren't, on point, your sales are going to suck. It's the things that lead into it. And she always says that. I love that because it's so true.
Yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, is that Michael? Is it Michael Glazer? Who's her father? Do you
Bill
remember?
Glazer.
Bill Glazer. Yes, great copywriter himself.
Yeah.
A wonderful individual. Yes. The funny thing is, and I'm sure that you get this question asked all the time, is what works better when it comes to copywriting? Is it a short or is it long? What is your answer to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the answer is it depends, because we just did in the copy chat, one of the copy chats was all on sales pages, and we had an incredible copywriter named Cheryl Binney come on and talk to us about how long form sales pages are still outperforming shorter ones. And I think a lot of people were surprised to hear that. They were hoping that Cheryl was going to say, write 2 sentences and there you go. And Cheryl was saying, long form sales pages are still outperforming. And then when we had our SEO expert, Meg Clark, she was talking about how even in blogs and stuff, like Google is, I'll probably mess this up because she's much more sophisticated when she talks about SEO than me. But when Google's crawling, they're noticing, and on social media as well, how long you're spending looking at something. So not just your engagement with it, but how long you're spending. So long form copy is still it's still like alive and well. So I tell my clients not to get so wrapped up in it, but to create experience, because we're all going to skim, right? Like we have shorter attention spans than goldfish. Like goldfish have 9, this is real science, you can look it up. Like goldfish have 9 seconds and we have 8 seconds. But we're all looking at things on mobile. So that number gets slashed to 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So the biggest things I tell people, no matter long or short, is to break up the text, especially in email. If I open my email and it's a long block of text, like I need a stress nap. I can't read that. I can't do it. I don't care how good it is.
Stress nap. I love it.
A stress nap. So I say, like, let's have lots of white space. Let's throw out everything you learned in English class. Let's create lots of white space, short paragraphs. Make it possible for your goldfish brain, the less than goldfish brain, to skim. So I'm not after people reading the whole thing. I'm after like a powerful skim.
Yeah. And do you think the reason that long sales copy works better is because it's really about building that rapport, right? You're building that rapport with your customer. And here's what a lot of people don't understand. A great copy will handle things like building rapport, overcoming objections, without a salesperson being there. I mean, that's why long copy, I think, works so well, because it goes through, who am I? Why you should listen to me? Let's cover the objections. Let me give you the confidence that you need to understand that you can do this, and that it can help you, and it can help you now, or whatever. And I think that's why it will always continue to work better, and especially depending on the price points. I mean, if you're selling let's say a $50 widget, and everybody gives, as far as I know, everybody gives like a money back guarantee.
Right.
You probably don't have to worry about long sales copy. But if you're selling something that's $500, $2,000, $5,000 and up, I think long sales copy is always going to outperform.
Yes, absolutely. And we always have to remember that whatever the price point is for us, if that feels like a no-brainer, but that might not be a no-brainer to our ideal client. So when I think about price point, I don't focus so much on price point. I focus on what's the investment for this ideal client. Because, even $47, like to you or I, maybe that's not a big deal, but to many people to go, I'm going to spend $47. I mean, that's like, that could be your grocery, for your family for the week. So if someone's trying to invest in their business, so I loved what you said when you were saying, like, the copy gives you the opportunity to build that trust. And if you can add social proof in there anytime that it's worked before, or testimonials, or, screenshots, people think they have to have these fancy testimonials, and you don't. Like, ask permission to take the screenshot on Facebook of something that somebody said about you, because we're craving that, like, kind of authenticity, like where it really came from, I say throwing social proof up there, overcoming the objections, like you said, saying who it's for and who it's not for, letting people earn that trust is really where it's at, and not thinking so much on the price point, but how can I make the person on the other side feel confident in this investment? Again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, what's it really doing for them? Yeah, that's.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and this is, again, it's, we've been talking copywriting. This is the same pattern, whether you're doing a text copyright or a video, right? I mean, it's the same thing. You got to cover the same stuff. The social proof is so important. And I think it's sometimes it's overlooked. I mean, there are certain things that people overlook. And I remember the first time I took a copywriting class. This is, 35 years ago, or whatever. Anyway, I hate that I can say that. I remember to this day, the biggest impact that class did for me is help me understand the importance of a headline and what is a headline. And to this day, I remember the massive impact when the first thing, the first thing I learned was that your logo is never a headline.
No.
And, people think that, hey, my logo is so cool and I've spent all this money on it. But again, back to what we said earlier, they don't care. I mean,
they don't.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, my clients will spend so much time on my tagline, my this, and I'm like, no. When we get to your website, right? Like someone comes to your homepage, again, going back to the goldfish thing, right? If we have 4 seconds to capture someone on the homepage, what's going to get them to read the next line?
Yes.
What's the kind of headline that's going to get them to read the next line? Well, it has to be something about themselves that's like benefit oriented. So you have to think like, and then people get nervous though. They think the headline, we had someone on the copy chat, another copywriter who I love named Elizabeth McKenzie, talk about how people get so nervous. They want it to be like tattooed on their body or something, like they're worried they can never change it. It's like, you can go in and change it. You're always evolving, right? So the purpose of your headline is like, what's going to get them to read the next thing? And every line is like, what for your opening for your email, your opening hook, what's going to get them to read the next line, as opposed to these like fancy taglines that they sound nice. They're kind of flowery, but they don't really mean something for the person who we need it to mean something for. Right.
Yeah. One of the things from, copywriters that I've learned over the years, I like this idea of evolving. There's people out there who will spend literally hours just developing that headline and testing the headline. And what a great time today, because there's software out there that will let us test different headlines, different images. A/B testing is what they call it. And this is something that, again, it's a pain in the butt, and you need somebody to help you understand the importance of this. But, there's email marketing, whether you use Infusionsoft or Aweber or, GetResponse, there's hundreds of them out there. They all allow you to do that A/B testing, and you can actually send the same email, but with a different subject line or headline to your group. And you can see which one is responding more, which one's got a better open rate and all that other stuff. So today, I think marketing is easier because we have so many analytics that we can use.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say I love it. I say let's fall in love with our metrics, let's look at it. Let's find out, because it's, especially with emails. That's why I love emails so much, because it's your own thing, like you own it. If Facebook and Instagram and all these things go away, which I'm sure a lot of, listeners, they kind of know that, like, if this was to go away, like, what do I have now to connect with people, which is why I think building your email list is so important. But also from a writing standpoint, it is the best place to talk about all the things we've been talking about: unleashing your voice, finding your personality, figuring out what converts. Because like you said, you can switch the subject line to the same content, same body in the email, same stuff, and switch the subject line and see what did your ideal client, what are they opening? And then you can make adjustments. So when clients start working with me, that's one of the first things I ask is for a list of their most opened emails. If they have a VA or assistant or someone doing it, I want to see what's your audience gravitating towards. And then, keeping the list and just kind of falling in love with those metrics. And if it didn't work, okay, let's resend the email, change the subject line, and see if that makes a difference. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. Let's We talked about the headline and things like that. Do you have any other copy conversion tips that we can that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, totally. So, especially because we were just talking about email, I think, email's, again, my favorite place because I think I like to focus with people, on those direct response, like where's the closest place to, for kind of lack of the better word, like where people are going to kind of take out their credit card, so let's work on that. So, the sales pages, the emails. And so within your email, we just were talking about subject lines, trying to add a personal touch whenever you can. I wouldn't say you do this all the time, but adding the person's name to the subject line, it will increase your open rates. Playing around with like emojis and stuff. Like, again, we're not doing this all the time. We don't want to like overload people, but playing with that and seeing what does that do to your open rate. And then within the body of your email, like I said this before, making sure that you make it scannable, like don't have a block of text, have lots of white space. And I always tell when I work with my clients, bolding certain aspects that you want to make sure people read so that they could literally go back to the email, read it. You could read it aloud from beginning to end, only reading the bold parts, the parts that, you've highlighted and clicked the little B buttons to make them bold. And they would still get the gist of what's happening in the email. Because again, we have to remember people aren't going to read, they're going to scan. And then the two other tiny things I always say with emails is having a very strong call to action, nothing mushy and only one thing. Sometimes clients will come to me and I'll like take a look at their email and I'm like, well, you've told them to go to 8 things. You're like, check out my services page, but also go to this blog, but also book a one-on-one call with me. And it's like one clear call to action. Going back to me as an actor, I always say to people, any email we're going to start to write, what's the end goal? What do we want to get our scene partner to do?
Right.
Do we want them to go to the blog? Do we want them to book a call with you? Do we want them to go to the sale, the landing page? And then we work backwards.
Yeah.
We work backwards. We hook them with a story, with all that, the personality. And that's kind of how the flow goes, as opposed to what I kind of see all the time is like very mushy call to actions or a lot of call to actions.
Right. So the way I tell my clients how to think about the call to action, especially when there's, like you said, 10 of them, is you go to someplace like the Cheesecake Factory, and the Cheesecake Factory gives you a volume, to look through. As far as a menu, there's like 1,000 choices, right? And if you're there with, I don't know, 3 or 4 people are stunned. They don't know what to do because this volume of choices. And what typically happens is one person will say, hey, I'm going to have the cheesecake salad, and 75% of the table will have the same thing because the decision's easy now. Okay, hey, that sounds good. I'll just have that. Yes. If you make it too complicated for your customers, they're not going to make a decision. They're going to be paralyzed. They just don't know what to do. Yeah,
like a confused mind, like they say, like you stay stuck. And if you don't, and I'm very much that way. Again, like if I don't know exactly like what the next step is, like I'm out. Then that's what people leave. So when a lot of times when I go and look and someone says, people open the email, but my click-through rate, is low, and people seem to be interested, like they opened it. And then I look and I get to the, wherever the call to action is. And like you said, it's not clear. It's like, I love that. Again, I may steal that from you, the Cheesecake Factory, right? And there's nothing wrong with the Cheesecake Factory, but in terms of like, getting people to take the next step, they want to be told what to do.
Yes.
Go here, make it clear. Don't make it murky, make it, even with your links, adding more than one. Like even if I sent an email today to my list and to get them to read a blog that I recently wrote. And I think throughout the thing, I have 3 links, and it's not a very long email, but I'm making sure the brain is always like, oh, yep, I'm supposed to click here. I'm supposed to do this next thing.
Yeah, I like that. All right. So since we've been kind of focusing on email, and I agree with you, I think email is still the best way to build your business long term. How often do you email your clients? I don't know if you've ever come across somebody who says, oh, Marisa, I don't want to bug my clients, so I haven't emailed them in like a year, or something like that. So, I am on, I'll just give you my thoughts and then you chime in. I like to email my clients, every week just to say hello. And then of course, if I have an offer, then I'll email them a lot during that offer campaign. But typically I will email them. And again, I want to email them something of value. It might be just say, hey, I was on vacation. Here's a funny video, or if it pertains to them on some way, I'll email them something like that. But I like to email them at least once a week. What is your take on email frequency?
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. So it's one of the reasons I started the Copy Chat, because people were saying, I'm scared to bother anybody. I don't want anyone to unsubscribe. I'm scared to sell. I'm I don't want to sound like a salesy weirdo. This is literally why I put the Copy Chat together, because I agree with you. You have to show up and show up often. And the most important thing I would tell anybody who's listening is that you want to show up something that you can commit to consistently. So I've had clients who'll come to me, they'll book a session with me where we go over kind of the emails that they're going to use for what we're talking about. And they'll be like, well, I'm committed. I'm going to send 3 emails a week. I know I'm going to do it. But again, it's what we talked about earlier, like anything, you start a diet, you're super committed, you get the course, you're going to do it. I guarantee if I follow up with those people the following week, they haven't sent the 3 emails. So let's take it a step back. And what are you going to commit to? What can you know you're going to commit to? Like you said, I like to send something every week. And then if I'm selling something or I'm promoting something, I send more. So just for myself, I send 2 kind of regular, the value emails a month, which usually as there's a story that's attached to it, I'm giving you some information to go check out a blog, or to, what's been going on in the group. And I want to give people more information on it and make sure I'm giving. And then if I'm promoting something, then there's going to be more emails. There's going to be, more emails that are being sent to them. And I always say email a little bit, we had someone on the Copy Chat, her name is Dallas Travers, and she talked about email 2 more times than you feel comfortable with in terms of selling email. Yeah, I love that. I was email more than 2 more times than you're comfortable with. Email, because people get nervous. And don't worry about, the one thing I would tell people is don't worry about the people who unsubscribe. Right. We're not concerned about them. They weren't going to buy from you anyways. So, and we want to you want to have such a specific voice when you show up in someone's inbox. And those are the people that we're calling out to. So I would say, don't be so nervous about email more than you think you should.
Yeah, I like that. Email more than you're comfortable. What was it? Email 2 more times than what you're
2 more times. She was talking about in terms of webinars, when you're kind of reminding them to come to the webinar, because it matters if people show up live.
Right.
She's email 2 more times than you'd think, And it's yeah, it matters, because the people who really are going to show up and be there, those are the people you want to call out to,
Yeah. And, years ago, I had this aha moment. We hired a company, and they contacted all of my unsubscribed customers. And when I say customers, these are people who we had their email plus their phone number plus everything, right? So we contacted them to find out why they had unsubscribed. And we could have done a survey, but since they unsubscribed, we couldn't do that. So we called them. And I want to say that 90% of the answers had nothing to do with me or my content. I mean, people had changed positions. They were they were starting a new, we call it going in a different business direction. Some people were just, anyway, just different things. I remember one person even said, "Hey, I my house caught on fire, so I had to put a hold on everything." And my point being is that we think it's about us, and we're wrong. Just like we've been talking about copywriting.
It's the theme of the conversation. It's not about you. Yeah, most of the time it's nothing about you. Or even if it does, I had a really great guy subscribe to the Copy Chat, and he wrote to me and he said, "Marisa, I've loved the content. I had a great time listening." And what did he say? He said, "I realized that where I'm going next, it's not gonna it's not gonna be for me. So I'm gonna take myself off of the list." He told me, but it was it has nothing to do with you. And I was like, wow, this is so sweet. He didn't have to say this to me, but also you were saying, the whole theme of this conversation is we think it's about us, and it's not. We have, how can we be of service and be, generous and get our scene partners to, you know, get something out of the relationship and the experience with us.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's not about us. And I think that if you look at big brands, you know, especially big brands that email, you know, you'd be surprised how often they email. My good friend, Dr. Joe Vitale, who I think his book is Hypnotic Writing. He's got like 65 plus books out there. He does a lot of stuff in the law of attraction space. He does a lot of stuff in copywriting. And I joined his list just to see if he's really walking his walk, right?
Yeah.
And the guy emails his list every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And he emails them with sometimes it's a little story, but I want to say, you know, 75% of the time it's an offer. And
that's, yes.
You know, and it could be a $7 offer, you know, but to even a $700 offer, whatever. But my point being is this guy is constantly sending him an offer. Yep. And his attitude, just like you said about people who unsubscribe, they weren't going to be my customers. They weren't ever going to buy. And on top of that, there's I forgot how many billions of people there are on the planet now, but there's a lot to go around.
There really is. And that's it. And I love what you were saying about Joe, in the sense of like, when you stop being nervous about like selling. So a lot of people, I think, were expecting to join the copy chat, and we were going to tell them like, don't sell, and like, you know, just give value, and, you know, they'll come, you know, if you build it, they will come, which is my Field of Dreams is my favorite movie. But if you build it, like, they will not come. So it is okay. You know, that's what you're doing. Someone signed up for your list for a reason. They want you to help them. That's what they came for. So when people sign up, that's perhaps your best time to gain a customer. It just depends on, you know, how you're going to go about it. And that's what a copywriter, messaging, you know, that accountability, that support can help you, so that it doesn't feel like selling. We're getting in this place of serving. We're serving people, and we're not being worried about like that, being allergic to sell, because you have to sell. You said at the top, I help people, you know, attract their clients, create a massive movement online, but in between there was make money.
Yes.
So if you want to make them, you know, make money, you have to figure out getting over that, find out what you're comfortable with, and not be afraid to sell. Because if you do it in the right way, you're not gonna feel like a salesy weirdo. That's what people, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And here's the deal: for anybody listening to us today or watching us today, the deal is, if you are afraid of being salesy, or what do you call it?
I always say, like, if you want it, like, you're afraid to sound like a 90s infomercial, you're afraid you're going to be like, you know, you're going to sound salesy.
Yeah. Or even insulting your clients, or upsetting your clients.
Right.
Not only is that part of the scarcity mindset, but that's why you're broke. I've never found somebody who is successful and making money and they have those hangups. When I got over it myself, because yes, I'm like everybody else. I don't want people to unsubscribe. I don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, I want to make money. But guess what? Some of those things are, what do you call it, counterintuitive or
sure.
They're contradictory, right? So yeah. You look at some of the biggest brands, and they don't care whether you come, stay, or lay, or whatever. They just, look, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'm here to help you. I'm here to give value. But if you want to unsubscribe, great. If you want to buy, great. If you want to just hang around, great. Yep. And you just got to focus on what you said, deliver the value, service your clients, service the people who are still looking around. And, some of them may buy from you right away. Some of them may buy a month from now, a year from now, even 2 years from now. I don't know about you, but just about every week, somebody buys from me and then when we check out, from the time they subscribed to the time they bought, it's amazing how much time has gone by. It's sometimes 8-9 months. We had one person last week who bought who's been on my list for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took them that long to get ready.
Exactly. So if you weren't showing up and showing up often, they wouldn't remember. So people who come to me and say, oh, I haven't emailed my list in, even a month. I'm like, okay, well, we have to change that. And I want people to understand it doesn't have to be just like the hard kind of like that heavy sale. It's just remembering kind of what we went back to. What's the call to action here? What do we want? What's the next step we want people to take? Is it that you want them, maybe you're doing like a challenge you want them to join, like a free challenge, or there's, what's going to make the next step, even if it's just to have that human to human connection with you. If you're kind of like a solopreneur and you want someone to get on the phone with you, going back to just that human to human connection. It doesn't always have to feel like the hard sell, but you're making sure that you're giving them, that you do have a call to action that is getting them to stick around with you longer in that moment, in that email, on the live, whatever it is, to the next step.
Yeah. All right. So we've been talking about copy chat. Is that something that people can still sign up for, or is that product no longer available?
So the series itself is, it ran for 2 weeks, but people can still have access to what's called the Copy Chat Kit, which gives you lifetime access to all the interviews. There's a recording of our bonus class we did, which goes over even more in depth what we talked about today about emails and creating, more compelling and emails that convert. And there's also a workbook that I've included in there too, with templates and kind of swipe copy from my clients and myself with different kind of email topics. We talked about that kind of nurture, that value email. And then people will come to me like, I don't know what the heck to say. I've run out of topics. So it's like a 6 email series. You could just keep running over and over again if you wanted. And there's, templates and samples from my clients and I. So the Copy Chat Kit is still available to purchase. And then the Copy Chat 2.0, I'm going to do another Copy Chat with another set of 21 experts in June 10th.
So if somebody wants to get the Copy Chat Kit, or they want to get Copy Chat 2.0, do they go to your website? Where do they go? So
for the Copy Chat Kit, you want to go to the copychat.com/thank-you. So it's the thank you, but there's a little hyphen in the middle. Okay. That's for the kit. You can still purchase the kit. I'm going to keep it available for about another few weeks, and then it's going to go back into the vault. So in about 2 weeks, it's going to go back into the vault, because then we're preparing for Copy Chat 2.0. And that won't be available to sign up for until about like the end of May. And that will be when it's ready at the copychat.com.
All right. So we have copychat.com/thank you with a hyphen.
With a hyphen between the thank and the you. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah.
Yes. That's you can purchase the whole kit there. And then when we come out with Copy Chat 2.0, and when that's available, that will be in June. Great.
I love that. And then, of course, we have your own website if people want to talk to you directly. What I like about your website is that when I looked at it, there was a do it for yourself, do it with you, and do it for you levels of service. And that's available at Marisa Corcoran.com. There.
Yeah, we got it right. Please, that's way better than you wouldn't even know what people, and that's Corcoran's my married name. So my old last name, my maiden last name is Frado. So just my whole life I had to contend with like the Marisa, like Fredo, and I had to like correct people. So when I met my husband, I remember being like, I'm really into this guy, but like his last name is like, I don't know if I can do this for my whole life. And I've done it. Because people are like, Marisa Corcoran. I'm like, oh gosh. So I said to my husband, we're like the simplest names for our kids, and they can like use their middle name as their last name. Let's just go with that.
Well, as a copywriter, why didn't you come up with you could have come up with a completely different name, kind of like, you have Cher and what do you call it? All these, professionally known as, right? So Billy Joel, that's not his real name. I forgot, that's what he's professionally known as. I forgot what his real name is, but yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, and I tell people this all the time, like you are your brand. Yes.
I wanted, and really why I used my husband's name was because remember I told you I was an actor. So when I was still acting and copywriting at the same time, I didn't want people to be confused.
Yes.
So Marisa Frado was like who I was with Actors Equity and like the Screen Actors Guild. So I had like my website for that. So I wasn't even married to my husband before I started using his last name for myself as the writer. That's how it started. And now I'm Marisa Corcoran Incorporated. And I'm like, how did you get all the credit for this? But we weren't even married. And I said, I'm getting so many copywriting clients. And not that I didn't want people to know, I was very honest, but if people were looking for me, you don't want a murky call to action. Right. I don't want them to be confused, like, who's this girl? Who's in this Hilton commercial, but she's going to write my copy? Like, what's going on? So I started using my husband's name back when he was just my boyfriend. So I'm glad we got married. So
yeah. Kind of a pre-sold, what do you call it? A pre-sale marriage thing there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's been so much fun having you on the show. And I hope that our viewers got some, some tips, some strategies. We covered a lot of great stuff. And I think that, some of the takeaways that I got is give value, email more often. Well, email at least two more times than you're comfortable with, right? And, this whole copywriting thing, getting inside of our clients' mind is so important that this is a skill that people really need to pay attention to. So whether they go and get some advice from you or maybe a book or anything like that, they really need to start plugging into it. Hey, speaking of books, do you have a book that you recommend when it comes to copywriting? Is there one that stands out to you?
Yeah, not so much like the books, but I always say like signing up for other like newsletters and people and seeing how they do it. Mm-hmm. So for me, like I love like Laura Belgray, who was like Talking Shrimp. I love to read Laura's emails. I think it's a great example of everything we've been talking about today. Anne Handley is like who I love, and Anne sends an email every other Sunday or two times a month. And it is gold for people to read. If you want to be better at copywriting or writing in general, it's gold. So those are the things I like to sign up for, the stuff that you're going to be trying to do to learn what resonates. So those are the people that I really gravitate towards and look at. And then also Michelle P.W., she wrote like the love-based copywriting system. So those are some great like quick books. Her stuff is super readable to read to get some more tips as well.
Yeah, I love Michelle P.W. I think she's great.
She was in the copy chat.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next time you talk to her, tell her I said hello. She's been on my show a couple of times. So she's wonderful, very gifted. And I love that whole, the whole love angle. I thought that was just brilliant.
Yes. That's why I loved having her on, because so many people were like so scared. They're like, I don't want it. And I'm like, I know the perfect person. And watching her in action is like crazy to watch. So it's so great to have her come on and explain the like love-based system. So yeah, I love it. Yeah,
Marisa, thank you so much for stopping by. It's been a blast, and looking forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks. Okay.